Hey everyone, John Michael here, and welcome to H2OMG. Come along and take a trip with me to the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History. I just realized all of that rhymed, and I'd like to apologize. Today we talk with Rebecca Reed, the manager of the museum's outreach department, and Laura Leckman, the assistant manager of outreach, all about water and the amazing outreach programs they offer on water. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a lively discussion on water, daylilies, and jam. Speaking of jam, Laura gave me a really great recipe for red wine rosemary fig jam, and I'm going to share that with you. So stay tuned after the interview and jam with me. So Shay from the Log Cabin Village put me in touch with you guys.
Yeah.
How do you guys know her?
We have
Sorry.
It's okay. So our institution is part of a group of institutions that does a large Girl Scout event each fall called the Swap Hop.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where girls get to come to, usually we host and the Cowgirl next door, they host. And we have a bunch of our friends come and also participate. And the girls make swaps, which are basically little crafty things that like have a pin so you can wear them. And so they'll pin them to hats or to like
called a swap.
Called a swap. Mm-hmm. And the idea is it's like an icebreaker. Like you trade them with other people, and then you like it's a kind of a chance to talk to someone. In theory, like when you make them, they have something to do with you, where you're from, or like things you like, and that way you're kind of sharing a little bit about yourself.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool.
And so the idea is it's a way to make friends in Girl Scouts.
And isn't it an acronym?
Yeah,
whatchamacallit, affectionately pinned.
Yeah,
I think is what it's an acronym for.
I regularly refer to. I'm like, it's crafty crap they pinned to themselves, and everyone's like, why? I'm like, it's kids.
Yeah.
But Shay was part of that group.
Yeah.
And Log Cabin Village has participated with us in the past, so she's part of that group of people that came and did that. So that's how we've gotten to know Shay.
Yeah, and she's only been here for a while, like 6 months, I think.
Yeah. When she does educational programs, she gets to dress up in historical costumes. It's rather cool. We don't.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, she was just in street clothes when I talked to her. Well, how long have you guys been? Well, let me start off. What's your name and your title?
So my name is Rebecca Reed. I'm the outreach manager here at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History. I started at the museum in October of 2009 on a grant-funded project called Community Studios. We did a lot of work in one of the high schools in Fort Worth regarding technology and job training. And then when that grant ended, I actually left and worked for the city of Fort Worth for about 6 months. And then when another position opened, I came back to the museum, and I've been here since November of 2011.
Oh, okay. What about you?
I'm Laura Leckman. I'm the outreach assistant manager. And I've actually worked for the museum in a couple of different capacities, all related to education. And I started, I believe, in October of 2008.
Oh, okay.
So
cool.
I've been here for a while.
Nice. And you said it's there's a preschool down here?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the museum school has a preschool enrichment program. Kids come 1 day a week, either morning or afternoon, and they use the museum's collections to learn about usually the natural world most of the time.
Oh, that's really cool.
And so like the 3-year-olds learn about a different animal each week. The 4-year-olds learn about a family of animals, and the 5-year-olds learn about an actual environment. And then they also do some homeschool and school age programs. They have a STEM focused, and some of those are even multi-day. The kids will come more than once a week. And so like, for instance, after Christmas vacation, I know the 3-year-olds are learning about coyote. My daughter's very excited. We've heard about it numerous times already. And then I know that like the 4s have been doing, they should be starting to do pretty soon because of the stock show, hooved animals. I forget the name of the family. It's got a fancy name. Ungulates, that's it.
Huh.
And so they'll start doing that family, and they'll do a couple weeks of that to learn about the different animals in that family, what they eat, how they live, all of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're here on a Monday because there aren't any
There's
preschoolers
no
around.
kids.
Okay.
No kids.
So it's a little bit quieter.
Yeah. So we aren't part of that department, the preschool department, but we office with them, and they are fabulous because the energy is great in here. So normally there's 4 or 5 classrooms of kids in the school each day. Right now there's nobody.
Yeah.
So it's nice and quiet. Yeah. No one's knocking on doors, using the hand sanitizer machine. No one's ringing the doorbell.
Yeah. And we do outreach. So our department is outreach. So we basically go out into the community, and we do programming with all sorts of community groups. We do some programming with independent living facilities, assisted living facilities, some skilled nursing facilities. We go do programming in schools,
memory care
programs. We do
lot of
programs with libraries. So we
Okay.
go out and do things out in the community with other institutions. So that's what our programming is based on.
Okay, so you guys are
We
out and about quite a
We
bit.
spend a lot of
Yes.
time loading things in and out of cars.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I saw when I was pulling up a lot of people loading things in and out of cars. So can you tell us a little bit about your programs related to water?
Yeah. So we have a few different ones. Probably our favorite, because we do it all the time for community groups and things, is a surface tension activity called Drops of Water on a Penny.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll have plates and pennies and pipette droppers, which are kind of like the medicine droppers for babies, but in theory, they're a little more exact. And the kids, you'll ask them, how many drops of water can you fit on a penny? And kids will normally say, what, like 6?
Yeah, like
Usually,
6 to 10
it's probably about
usually
average.
is, I guess. And then you'll have the one kid,
500!
500!
And we're like, no. And so then you'll give them water,
Yeah.
clean water. It becomes important. We've learned that the hard way. We'll get to that. And they get the pipette and they get to start dropping water on a penny. And water's interesting. The shape of the molecule, it makes it have a positive side and a negative side. And so consequently, they'll stick together. And so water is kind of a sticky substance. We don't really think about it as being sticky, but it sticks to you, it sticks to things. And that's why the drops of water always kind of coalesce together because of those bonds. And you can make that do cool stuff. So on a drop of penny, you can fit what, 30 to 50, depending on
your size of droplet and your
steadiness of hand,
accuracy in getting it on there.
if anyone bumps the table, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you can get basically, it's a big dome of water. It looks like a glass marble.
It's really
On the table.
Oh,
Like
cool.
on my
neat.
on my Instagram, I have that video I took of solely of the water dropping, and the whole thing just shakes and ripples. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And so that's really our favorite, because it's the kids get really into it because it becomes a contest on who can get the most.
Yeah.
And it's a really visual way that shows
The surface
some of the
tension
weird
and-
things about water.
Yeah. So you sent me a list, and you guys do quite a bit of water related activities. Can you tell us about another one?
Another
What's
fun-
your second favorite?
stream tables?
Yeah, stream tables.
Stream tables.
Probably.
Stream tables.
That one's pretty fun because we do it outside most
We do
of the
that,
time.
yeah. So usually we'll do that as part of like an environmental program. We do a great environmental program each year for WA Porter. It's a Birdville school. And we go to a nature center near there that the kids can walk to. And so we're outside. We get to not worry about mess and spilling and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And we have trays that we put on an incline. They have a hole at the bottom. And basically the kids get to set up landscape kind of in that tray with sand and rocks and fake plants and real plants, whatever they kind of find around there.
Yeah.
Little sticks. They do a lot of.
As long
And
as they don't
then-
pick up the poison ivy.
As long as they don't pick up the poison ivy. That place
We
is
try to keep away from the PI.
there's a lot of it there. So much.
Sounds like there's been some experiences in the past.
Ironically, like we've gone, 5 or 6 years
Yeah.
we're saying, and none of our staff has ever
No.
gotten poison
Oh,
ivy.
okay.
So like fingers crossed, like we are on top
We
of
don't
our
know
game.
about the kids. We
I mean-
haven't heard
Yeah.
anything about the kids, but we caution them, and their teachers do as well, to not touch it. But
Yeah. I'm super allergic to
So
it.
am I.
So yeah.
So I'm actually shocked and amazed I haven't gotten it.
knock on wood, to date, I have not been.
But once they set up their little landforms in there and get it all arranged, then we have deli cups, like the kind you'd put soup in. They have holes in the bottom, and they set those at the top of the incline and let that water erode.
Okay.
So they get to see the weathering, they get to see the erosion,
Yeah.
they get to see the deposition and the where all of that happens, and then they have to draw pictures of it in their science journal.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah. And that was fun. That one's really fun too, because once the kids get the concept down, then of course you can just let them go wild and build and then like flood the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they love that, and like total destruction of the stream
Yeah.
table.
It's
and
yeah.
it's just,
that
they have a
combines
lot of fun with it.
combines it all. It combines building and distraction.
Mhm.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah. And
Yep.
it's a really nice hands-on way to see the power of water, what it can
Yeah.
do.
Because you always point out too that that's a small scale. So think about what that would be like in an actual like flood situation
Yeah.
where you had
and
so much
that
water.
nature center, where it's located, it actually, if it rains, the whole thing floods. It's in a flood area.
That's why it's not built
Oh,
on.
okay.
Yeah, that's why they haven't built houses. There's houses all around it too, which actually it's a great opportunity to talk about the runoff and everything, because we do a pond study program there too, where we'll look at what's in the water, and as it turns out, not a lot in their water.
No.
They stock it with fish, and actually we were lucky last year they stocked it right before we did our program because they were having a fishing derby the next weekend. But there's not any, like if you scoop the mud and everything, you don't find any invertebrate. You don't find really anything there. And you'll look around and all around, it's all like, this is a low spot and everyone has beautiful green lawns and like lovely gardens. And there's lots of roads. And you'll talk about, well, where's all the water from these neighborhoods? Where's it go? And they're like, oh, it goes into the ponds. And there's a series of ponds. So I'm willing to bet if you were to look at the first one versus the last one, you'd probably see some differences. But they're very man-made. They have a straight edge. They don't have a natural edge. The vegetation's not up into the water. Yeah. And so it's kind of an interesting.
Well, you can talk about water pollution too,
right?
And that's why there's none of the
nothing. We're not
invertebrates,
seeing
and
these
you're not
things.
seeing as many of them because of the pollution load from the fertilizers and from the runoff from the streets and the roads and things like that.
The water looks clean. I mean, it's clear and it's nice, but maybe it's not as clean as we think it is. Yeah. And so typically we find a couple frogs and maybe some little things, but not much. Not like what you can find in other ponds some places.
Yeah. I keep seeing people walk by with cartloads of stuff.
That's all the stuff.
We're moving out of a storage facility today too.
That's what they're doing.
It's giving me flashbacks to yesterday. So we talk about, one of the most basic things we talk about is the water cycle. You know, we start that with little kids, and we've talked about that. We have an episode. Our second episode, Dinosaur Pee, was all about how we have the same water. You know, we're not getting any new water, and we got to take care of it. And you guys have a program about the water cycle too, right?
We do it two different ways depending on the age of the kids. The older kids have a writing aspect to it. The younger kids don't. Or if we're doing it out in like an outdoor setting or like a more fun, laid-back setting. And basically, the kids get to be a water molecule, and they get to travel through the water cycle. And we have buckets that have cards in them with like different scenarios. And they send them, each bucket's a spot there's water. So there's a cloud bucket, glaciers, groundwater,
ocean.
Groundwater is a hard one for them to understand.
Yeah, groundwater
kids do not understand groundwater.
It's a difficult concept. We're still mastering on how to teach that to them to let it.
They don't have wells here as much,
right?
Yeah. So they don't have that idea.
Yeah.
Where else is ocean is a big one.
Yeah.
A lot of water gets stuck in the ocean for a long time, and so they'll pull a card and they'll say like, oh, you were drank by a dog, an animal. So go to the animal bucket, and then you'll go to the animal bucket. And typically, if you're in the animal bucket, you're either come out through respiration or you come out through urine, which they always love.
There's always lots of giggling involved when somebody gets out and they're like,
fourth grade boys love that card, and they won't say the words.
No,
they're like, the animal got rid of waste. And I'm like, ooh, how tactful. What else do they say it? They've hit a couple different ways.
Yeah, waste products is usually the big one.
We're like, so they urinated. They're like, woo! We're like, yes.
It's like, yes, you became animal urine, move on to the next bucket. Now you're in groundwater or a stream, depending on where it told you to go.
Think about that. So the older kids have to write down where they go. And then at the end they can talk about that.
Yeah.
The younger kids, most of them actually have the ability to do the writing, but it takes so long that they don't get to do many turns. And so instead we have them take a bead. We have different colored beads, and they make a little bracelet showing their turn.
Yeah, we do something very similar.
On like a pipe cleaner.
Yeah.
And so that's probably the best the best way we do that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean,
occasionally make weird tweaks because people need something different, but
yeah.
And sometimes we'll throw, depending on what we're doing, we'll throw a little bit of surface tension activities in with that, or we'll throw a little bit of like, more academic water cycle, like more formal too, depending on the group that we're doing it for.
It depends on what the teacher's lessons, what they're trying to go for.
And if we're doing it for a community group versus a school group, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, you might have mentioned this, but like what ages are these programs for? And can you kind of scale it up and down?
Yeah. So most of our water programming is for, I would say, kinder.
Yeah, kinder through like fifth.
Yeah.
Maybe reaching towards sixth, but
we could do stream tables for older kids.
Yeah, stream tables.
Because everyone likes destroying landforms they've made.
Sure.
Let's be real. I mean, there's a lot of adults who actually, they've done it as a teacher training before. And teachers
it sounds like
are
fun.
like,
teachers get into
I'm down.
It too.
I can do that.
Yeah, a little bit of catharsis in there with learning.
Oh yeah,
that's great.
And then the only other, we do have the life science lecture for the Texas seashore, where we talk about animals that live in the water.
Well, the Trinity River ecosystem one too is a life science lecture for the adults, the adult groups, and we basically talk about the fish and the birds and the turtles and beavers and, basically everything that lives in the Trinity River in Fort Worth. So that they can connect that up.
So in those programs, we take stuff from the teaching collection here at the museum and we'll bring it out to facilities. And those really are ones, we'll do them for multi-generational groups, but typically those are in the retirement communities and in the memory care facilities. We'll do those. Oh, okay. So we'll bring out these taxidermied birds and we'll bring out, specimens in jars and, like the shells in like the little boxes and different things. And basically we just talk about, what does this thing eat and how's it involved in that ecosystem and all of that.
Lifespan and all of that. And it's a really cool program too, because you say lecture and you're like, meh, boring. But it's more like we do it in what we call an interactive format. So, our educators will tell personal stories that they've had with certain animals that they're doing.
There's a lot of skunk stories,
a lot of stories,
opossum stories,
raccoons. And so, then the participants that are involved in the lecture, then, that gives them kind of the freedom to share that information back with us. Oh, I was down when I was fishing and I saw this or that happen. And, so it kind of gets them involved. So it's not like a traditional lecture format.
Back and forth.
It's more
the idea
of a
is to have conversations and to be able to tell stories and everyone get to kind of share at the same time.
Yeah.
So you've talked about school groups and retirement communities, and what other kind of groups do you guys work with? And can anybody request an outreach?
Anyone can request an outreach program. We've done outreach for high school. We've done outreach for pretty much every age. There is.
We've done some private organizations as well that have had us come in for family days and things like that. Okay. And we've worked a little bit with Cook Children's.
We've done
a couple of programs with them.
They have an epilepsy camp we've done things for, and we used to do a program for the North Tarrant Food Bank. When they used to do their character breakfast, we would come and do part of that.
We've done programs for JP Morgan Chase and Facebook Data Center.
For their family day. You bring your kid to work day.
Yeah.
Chase, I think, was concerned that they needed something else, and so it's fun. You get to come and play with kids. And, and that's science for fun too. So it's always great when it's science for fun as opposed to science for the test or science for...
Well, and we try to keep all of our programs, even our school-based programs, we try to keep them science for fun with the academic component, but we don't tend not to focus on the academics. We focus on the fun.
The hands-on part of it.
The hands-on part, so that they can absorb it better.
Yeah, well, that's how you get your foot in the door, right? With kids really learning things. Oh, man, Can I borrow a piece of paper? Because I need to write them down when I think of it. Thank you. You don't need your sheet?
I can.
She can share mine.
Well, I was going to ask how big is your department? How many people work in this group?
Well, we've grown dramatically in the last couple months. So up until this fall, I was full-time and Laura was part-time in the office.
Oh, wow.
And we had a bunch of part-time people on call as needed to do programs. And then this year, now Laura's full-time also, and we have, because we do 2 science night programs, we have someone who's helping coordinate one of those science night programs part-time in the office, and so still our on-call educators. So we actually, we serve a lot of people with very little manpower here.
I'm surprised because I thought with all the programs that you're talking about, I thought it was going to be, a lot of people.
We're very busy.
We do have about, I think for Discovery Lab on Wheels, we have 6?
Right now, I think we have 6, educators. And then we'll have more in the summertime.
Yeah, we'll have more in the summertime. And then for festivals, we have about 8, 6.
We should have 8. We have 5.
And then for museum nights, we have 7 or 8.
We have 10.
Okay, 10.
And we're budgeted for 11. 12.
Yeah.
So
we constantly kind of run understaffed, but it's kind of a fun challenge to run understaffed, and we both kind of like that. So,
well, if you like staying busy, right?
Oh, well, it's staying busy and it's finding the right people. I mean, for the night programs, it's hard to find the right people who are interested in what we do and who are available to work in the evening. And the same thing for during the day. Our part-time staff who's on call, they work when there's programs, but if there's not a program, they don't work. And so for some people that doesn't work for them because they want more steady. More steady hours. But we're blessed to have some fabulous people currently working for us.
We've got an amazing team. Amazing. I just done all 3 of our programs. So we've got an amazing,
right now we really
amazing teams going.
You've hit a real sweet spot.
Yeah.
So what are your backgrounds like? Like what did you go to school for?
So I am actually a formally trained classroom teacher. I taught for Fort Worth ISD for 11 years. And in conjunction with that, because we all know teachers don't get paid enough, I happened to work for the Fort Worth Zoo at the same time. And then I resigned from Fort Worth ISD, had my daughter, and kept on at the zoo, and then had another friend from the zoo who had come over here. So I then started working, actually one of the family science night programs that went out to the schools in the evenings. And so that's how, between the zoo got me into informal education, and then after I got out of formal education, now I'm obsessed with informal education because it's so much more fun. So I kind of have the best of both worlds in some ways with the formal education training and the informal aspect of stuff too. So
I actually went to school for landscape contracting. I have a bachelor's of science in landscape contracting from Penn State. And so I have kind of a different background than a lot of people. I did some work in that kind of field. I interned at Longwood Gardens in Philadelphia, hung Christmas lights for them for about 6 months. It was, did some really interesting work. And then went to graduate school for agricultural and extension education, which is basically the informal education of branch of the land-grant university system. And so I had an assistantship through the state 4-H office when I was there. And when I graduated and eventually ended up in Texas and worked a little while for a Texas Trees Foundation in Dallas, and then ended up doing one other informal ed job before I ended up at the museum. So So while I had that degree, I wanted to, originally my plan was I wanted to like work in community gardens and that kind of thing. So
do you do a lot of gardening at home?
Our house is amazing.
My husband's also a horticulturist. We actually met at Longwood Gardens. So there's a lot of gardening. There's a lot of plants. We had to buy a greenhouse when we moved here. There's probably a problem. We may need an intervention.
Wait, did I hear that right? You bought a greenhouse? You bought your own greenhouse?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we put it together. It was a kit.
Oh, cool.
I was pregnant. It was not fun. My father-in-law had to help. I got to the point where they had to make the choice of, can you bend over or do you want to breathe? Like, you can do one or the other. You cannot do both anymore. And at that point, my father-in-law, my husband put it together. It was like from Finland or Norway. So like 3 millimeters away from this, drill a hole. And we're like, excuse me, what? So it took a little longer than expected, but it's quite nice, quite sturdy.
It's a beautiful greenhouse.
Yeah, but we have a lot of. We're also in the Daylily Society, so for fun we hybridize daylilies, because daylilies don't come true to seed, so you have to, they pollinate, and so basically there's I think 40,000 I think different registered cultivars, and everyone's been made by somebody who is kind of geeky about that kind of thing. Yeah.
Huh.
So there's a club. There's a club of daylily people.
The Daylily Society.
North Texas Daylily Society. Yeah, we meet at the Botanic Garden once a month.
Oh, okay.
Except for in July. We don't meet in July.
And she's got my kid hooked on. They have one meeting
a year. We do Daylily Bingo.
Do Daylily Bingo. And so my kid is like obsessed with Daylily Bingo now. So no, we have a daylily problem as well. But living in Weatherford,
you play bingo and you win
daylilies.
And you win daylilies.
Yes.
And other things, sometimes wine.
Yeah, sometimes wine.
Sometimes
other
tchotchkes
things.
and like other plants or whatever.
Yeah.
People just bring whatever extra they have and you win things. It's super fun.
Yeah.
My daughter loves it.
So I have.
She's only 4 though. She doesn't really understand.
So I have a daylily problem now too, because they're like all in pots on my driveway, and I have some of them planted. But living in Weatherford, we have deer, and deer love daylilies. So I'm kind of limited as to where I can plant them. And
she has a deer repellent spraying program in her yard.
It's going to go in force more this year. But
you have a daylily problem, a deer problem.
So we have a big daylily problem.
They have a huge daylily problem.
We probably have a
but
few.
You have yard space for yours.
We have a few hundred different registered cultivars, and then like this year I think I made a few thousand seeds that my husband's planted. They're in the greenhouse growing, waiting for spring. And then as they bloom, so they take about 2 years. As they bloom, then you decide if they're good enough. And if they're not, you rip them out and compost them. And if they are, then you keep them a while longer and you see if they're really good enough.
Yeah.
Is the flower, is it tall? Is it whatever you're looking for?
Yeah.
And then you can register them. And then you have like an official daylily that you've named. It's kind of cool.
Wow. Have you done that? You've registered
Not
that?
yet.
Okay.
We have last year was
you have a handful that you're trying though.
Yeah, last year was the first year that we had any that bloomed that were like good. Yeah. I did win best seedling at the Daylily show the last year because I'm secretly a 90-year-old woman who's in a garden club and I show flowers.
I didn't see that trophy on your desk.
It's not. I have a ribbon.
Oh, okay.
It is displayed at your house.
It's in the guest room.
Yeah, it's in the guest room.
I don't want to make it too. I don't want to be too like in your face. I don't want people to feel bad when they come over that they don't have a Daylily ribbon. But yeah, no. And my daughter now, she's a toddler, an old toddler, and so she like thinks that's what you do. Like it's really funny. I'm like, oh kid, when you get to elementary school, you're gonna realize your parents are weird.
Yeah, so my 12-year-old already realizes that she knows we're weird. She's okay with it. But yeah. So we do have very diverse backgrounds. Yeah. Mine's more traditional, hers is not.
Well, we talked about your daylily obsession, and when I came in, I heard you guys talking about jam, and
Yes.
so you make a lot of jam, right?
Yeah,
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, she actually got me hooked on it because
Oh, okay.
my husband really likes jalapenos, and so for many years we've always kind of grown like a salsa garden, just basically like tomatoes and things that you put in salsa.
Yeah.
And one year we just had, I guess it was about 4 years ago, we had like a massive bumper crop of jalapenos. And I'm like, there is like no way. Like, I do not want all of this to go to waste. We have to do something. And she's like, well, just pick one. And I'm like, what? She's like, it's not that hard. And so she like got me schooled on it. And now like it's become a hobby. And so I basically pickle whatever I can get my hands on during the growing season. Our salsa garden bit the dust this year. It was it did not produce. But our fig tree, on the other hand, went gangbusters. So I have copious amounts of rosemary red wine fig jam. Because I also had a neighbor who dropped off a couple of cases of red wine for me to share with neighbors. And that's a whole long story. But
It didn't get shared.
It didn't get shared. I don't drink red wine.
The party
that
didn't
often.
happen the way it was supposed to.
It didn't happen anyway. But I don't drink red wine that often. So I was like, hey, I've got all of this stuff. So I made a whole bunch of them, and then we did have some serrano peppers, so I made some serrano fig jam as well.
Oh, that sounds great.
So it's, and then do the water bath canning and all of that kind of stuff.
Because
you
don't do the pressure bath.
No, I
the
don't
pressure
do
run.
pressure. I'm too scared.
Yeah, like if you want to do like
friend's
meat
gonna, like, explode on
or
me.
like something that's not high acid or high sugar, you have to pressure can it. That's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
But water bath canning is pretty
It's easy.
simple.
As
You
long
just
as
need
you've
a
got
pot.
and a good recipe to follow. There's a lot on Pinterest that you're kind of like, that doesn't have enough sugar in it to reduce the microbial growth, or it doesn't have enough.
There's
you have to have the balance of the acid or the
Yeah.
sugar.
Yeah.
So you have to be
There's
careful with your
a book
recipes.
called the Ball Blue Book, which is like the kind of like old school canning Bible. Lots of grandmas had it. And it has lots of recipes, and it has lots of actually science about it too, where they talk about like this is why this works, and they'll explain like if you're going to mess with a recipe, like if you're going to change, take out the lemon juice or whatever, you're changing the pH, and so you have to do something else that brings it back into the right range.
Because the pH is what prevents the microbial growth.
Sure.
So I mean, even if you sterilize it and stuff, it does that.
I do a little bit of pickling, and I only make one kind of jam, but I'm very interested in that recipe because my wife loves figs. Would you share that with me, and I can share that with our listeners?
I actually have a jar in the office. I will send with you before you.
Oh,
leave.
great!
I brought extra jars for people.
But can you tell me the recipe too, so I can?
Yeah.
Is it a secret?
No, it's not a secret. It's in. I can't remember which book it's in. I think
if you can send it to me later,
Yeah,
and
I think it's in food. I think it's in a book called Food in Jars. I think maybe it's in either the Food in Jars or it's in the Ball Book of Canning. It's in one of the two. But yeah, I can definitely share that with
Wonderful. Yeah, that would be great. I can share that with our listeners, and they can make their own jam. It sounds great.
If you have a good fig tree, you're set for that kind of thing.
So where can people find out more about you guys? Do you have social media?
So the museum has a Facebook page and I think an Instagram page and all of that.
Okay. And our stuff is up there sometimes, but not very often.
The museum on our website though, there's a tab, a Learn tab. And so it has all of the different kind of educational offerings that the museum has.
Okay.
And so we're in the outreach part of that.
Okay.
Yeah, and the main program that we do, the three main programs. We have the Discovery Lab on Wheels program, and so most of the programs that we've talked about today fall under that Discovery Lab on Wheels category. And then we also have our family STEAM festivals, which is the program in the evenings that goes out to schools and does STEAM related activities on the school campus.
It's a science night.
It's a science night for the school at their location. And then we also have the family museum night, which is the family science night for schools where they physically come here
And have a science
and
night
have a
here.
science night here. And the cool thing is the museum's closed, so only the schools and their families that are here get that experience, and so it's only open to them
Oh, that's
for that.
cool.
Yeah, and all three of those are found under the Learn tab. So the outreach, they're under that outreach tab.
Okay, cool.
On there.
All right. I think that's all the things I wrote down. I wrote down jam recipe, background.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to talk about anything else? Is there anything else you want to? Is there anything coming up, or we don't have to talk about the exhibit that you mentioned, but I would like to come back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I'm going to
absolutely.
put you in touch with. I'm going to find out from Alexa who she wants to talk on that. We do a lot of like library programming in the summer, so people could look at their local libraries and see if we're coming, or ask their local libraries if they,
to see if we're coming.
We're doing the gingerbread man thing this summer, the challenge with the water and the boats.
Oh, we are. We are doing the gingerbread challenge with the water with the boats. Yes.
So the library has a summer reading theme every year.
Yeah.
The state of Texas picks one for the state. It's not like a mandatory thing. So some libraries opt in, some opt out.
They do their own thing.
I think the mayor in Fort Worth, she selects the theme. And some years she goes with the theme. I don't blame her. Some years the themes are a little not as good as others. So this year the theme is
Imagine yourself in a story.
Which is hard for us. Last year was space. Space was very easy for us.
Space. That was simple. We're like, boom, we knock it out.
We, as it turns out, have a harder time imagining ourselves in a story. But we have come up with a bunch of activities for that. And so one of them this year it's about like the gingerbread man story.
It's called Escape from the Fox, because the gingerbread man obviously is trying to get, depending on which version of the story you read, is trying to get away from the fox. And so he has to cross the river. Yeah,
so we're going to have the kids build boats that have to hold enough weight so that the gingerbread man can escape.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not sink. Probably outside.
Hopefully outside. Unless you got a library that just doesn't care, which some of them don't. Depends on the library.
Yeah.
Because kids and water and boats and rugs, books, not always the best mix.
No. But so that's up to the librarian to make their personal decision as to whether or not they are comfortable with having that inside, because some are.
Well, and some have space.
Yeah.
So that's coming up this summer?
Yeah, that's one of the ones
that's
we're
one of our
offering.
summer offerings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Libraries.
I love doing summer libraries. It's so fun.
Libraries.
I think that's all I have. Thank you guys for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A huge thanks to Rebecca and Laura for taking time to talk with me and for showing me around the museum. Now, let's jam. By the way, this jam recipe is so good that when I was printing it out, the printer jammed. That actually happened, and it's so dumb that I couldn't even make that up. Okay, so we'll be making a red wine rosemary fig jam, and this recipe comes from the all-new Ball Book of Canning and Preserving. This recipe makes about 4 half-pint jars. Ingredients. You'll need 1.5 cups of Merlot or another fruity red wine, 2 tablespoons fresh rosemary leaves, 2 cups finely chopped fresh figs, 3 tablespoons Ball Classic Pectin, 2 tablespoons bottled lemon juice, and 2.5 cups of regular old sugar. And now for the steps. Are you ready? Just pause in between each one, and when you get done with it, then hit play and hear the next one. I'm probably also going to put this in the show notes so you can read it. Okay, step 1. Bring wine and rosemary to a simmer in a small stainless steel or enameled saucepan. Turn off the heat, cover, and steep for 30 minutes. Step 2. Pour wine through a fine wire mesh strainer into a 4-quart stainless steel or enameled saucepan. If you haven't caught on, you're going to need a lot of stainless steel or enameled saucepans. Discard the rosemary, stir in figs, pectin, and lemon juice. Bring mixture to a full rolling boil that cannot be stirred down. Over high heat, stir constantly. Step 3. Add sugar, stirring to dissolve. Return mixture to a full rolling boil. Boil hard for 1 minute, stirring constantly. Remove from heat. Skim foam if necessary. Step 4. Ladle hot jam into a hot jar, leaving 1/4 inch headspace. Remove air bubbles. It doesn't say how to do that, but you can figure it out. Just shake it. Wipe the jar rim, center lid on jar, apply band, and adjust to fingertip tight. Place jar in a boiling water canner. Oh yeah, so you'll also need a boiling water canner. Repeat until all jars are filled. Step 5. Process jars for 10 minutes, adjusting for altitude. I thought that's an attitude. Turn off heat. Remove lid and let jars stand 5 minutes. Remove jars and cool. And you're done. Enjoy your fig, rosemary, and red wine jam. Thanks again to Rebecca and Laura, and thanks for the jam recipe. If you try this recipe at home, please let me know how it turns out. Hit me up on Twitter at FWWater, Facebook at Fort Worth Water, and Instagram at SaveFWWater. See you next time.